Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of Season 5 of Shameless on Showtime. And I reviewed every other season, seasons 1 through 4, which you can find on my channel. Shameless, just one of the absolute best shows out there right now, and Season 5 is no exception. Season 5 is fucking great in my opinion. Really, every season of Shameless is good. It's just such a chaotic, darkly funny, really seriously investing show. And everything that's going on, there's so many character dynamics, so many things going on with each individual character. It can be hard to sort of like keep track of everything. But yeah, it still flows together like a well-oiled machine, and even though, like I said, a lot of things flow together pretty well, it's still hard for me to sometimes decipher, between the seasons, which one is my favorite. But when I really do think about it, I think Season 5, Season 1, maybe 2, and 4 are probably my favorites of the show so far. Not that I had anything against Season 3. Like I said, every season of Shameless is great. It just really comes down to what was your favorite thing going on with the character, and then just pick the season, Like I said, Season 5 it really delivered. Shameless just continually makes me happy when I'm watching it. It's just the perfect thing to sit down to, and it's like you can relax, but at the same time really care about what's going on. And that's a show that really is really unique and really special, I think. Now I just have Season 6 to catch up on, and I'm hoping I can do that before October 2nd, because October 2nd starts Season 7. And I'd love to catch up in time and be able to review every episode weekly. I love to do that. Shameless is definitely that high caliber of a show for me. It's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen, really. So I'd love to be able to do that. And it's, let's see, how long do we have? It's about just under 2 weeks or so now before Season 7 starts. So I might be able to do it. It's just kind of hard to mix this in with still trying to get further into Supernatural and such. But I should be able to pull it off, I think. But yeah, Season 5 is great. There's just great stuff again going on with every character. And, I'm not going to be able to get into all the details, whether there's just way too much. But we had stuff going on with Fiona, and this new character Gus. We had, Frank having this, really interesting dynamic with the doctor, Bianca. We had Lip and, the professor, and, dealing with college and such. We had Kev and V with some friction between them once the babies were actually born. Ian got a major concentration this season as well, which I was really happy about, and actually got pretty serious and interesting with his parallels with Monica and such. And then he also had Carl just getting more off the rails. I don't really care about Carl too much, to be completely honest. But same thing with Debs. Debs is really was really frustrating this season. She's growing up, she's going through her teenage years in the most stereotypical way possible. Devs is like the one side of the show that kind of, I don't know. And then we also had, of course, at the end, a lot of stuff with going on with Mickey and such. But we'll get more into that in a few minutes. Before I get into all those specifics, though, that I can actually keep track of, I do want to talk about, the cliffhanger at the end of Season 4, sort of with, Jimmy being back in town. Of course, being in the car with Ditch and Latchman. I'm probably not pronouncing her name right, but, she played Sarah on Being Human Season 2, and she was also Anya on The 100 on the CW, another great show. So it was cool to see her on here, and throughout the season, as Fiona was working at the diner, she was leaving her really big tips, and sort of came off like she was actually interested in Fiona, which I wouldn't have minded that being explored. But really, she was just sort of spying on her for Steve or Jimmy or Jack, apparently. I don't know. But I was pretty happy when Jimmy did show back up. I noticed a lot of the fans are pretty mixed on him. But I do think he's a pretty fun and interesting character. Justin Chatwin plays him really well, I think. Certainly a step up from Dragon Ball Evolution. It's just really funny because both him and Emmy Rossum do something like Dragon Ball Evolution, and they show themselves to be such great actors on Shameless. It really shows you something, I think. That was probably the movie, not as much of them. But anyway. So I thought when Jimmy was introduced, of course, that throws a wrench into everything Fiona has going on and what she was building with Gus. Of course, Gus being this actually genuinely good person on the show. Whoa. He's part of a band. They end up getting married and a pretty, in the heat of it all, I guess. And I think Gus is a pretty likable character. But I did like the Jimmy and Fiona dynamic being reintroduced, and the way it ended was actually pretty surprising, I think. With Fiona finally, sort of cutting her ties with him, just saying how different they are at this point, and how she admits she does have love for him, but they're just not on the same path anymore. They're not really clicking in the way they used to. They're just too different now. And I really like that because not only was the music really touching that went along with it in that scene, but the way Jimmy responded to that, I was pretty impressed by. He actually kind of left her alone and just walked away and drove off after that. So I did sort of respect that about Jimmy and how he sort of respected what Fiona wanted. Jimmy's a pretty shady guy, but I do think he had some good qualities to himself. And he did do some good things for Fiona over the seasons, and I don't know if he's going to come back or not. In a way, I'd like to see him come back. I don't think I've ever liked any of Fiona's love interests as much as I do Jimmy. So in a way, I kind of hope that he comes back and he's sort of like the final thing for her in the series. But at the same time, if this is the last time we see Jimmy, I think it was pretty satisfying and it really made a lot of sense for all the characters involved. He did say he gave up his trip to Dubai for her, but we find out from Ditch and Latchman's character, Angela, I think her name was, that, the client actually canceled it and not him. But, I still think Jimmy's a fun character. There are different theories about what actually happened there. Some say Angela was lying, because, she has something against Jimmy now, or I don't know what it is. But whether Jimmy comes back or not, I think this is a pretty satisfying way to leave things between him and Fiona. So I did like that part of it. And then with Fiona, you also had this dynamic with her and her boss at the diner, Sean, who turned out to be a pretty likable character as well. And he did have some depth to him with what was going on with his son, and of course, separation with his own former flame and such. It was kind of odd that they had Jeffrey Dean Morgan sort of as the boss at first. But I don't know what ever happened with that. I feel like it was pretty much maybe Jeffrey Dean Morgan had other things on his schedule and he couldn't really invest as much time into Shameless as he initially thought he could, and then maybe they replaced him with this other actor. I think that's what happened. And the actor who plays Sean does do a good job, but if it was Jeffrey Dean Morgan, come on, it would have been that much better. But I still like the Sean and Fiona thing, and it really culminated in the finale, with them sort of having a lot of bonding moments over the season and such. And I do think they sort of work, and Fiona, she just really needs to, set her mind straight and decide what she really wants, and I feel like she sort of did at the end of the season. I do sort of feel bad for Gus. I'm sort of curious about how that's all going to go in season 6, though. I do hear there's some kind of wedding in season 6, so who's that going to be with? I don't know. But chances are Fiona is probably still going to struggle with what she really wants. I still really do love Fiona as a character. I respect her a lot, but at the same time, I am getting a little bit tired of all the mistakes and back and forth she's making. It's starting to get a little bit tiresome, I'll admit. But Amy Rawson just does such a good job. It's easy to get through, I think. And then Frank, he had a really interesting dynamic this season when he met Bianca, the doctor, who was looking in on him. And then she turns out to actually have cancer, and of course that's something that even with chemo, you only have like a 2% chance to survive, at least with hers apparently, which of course is automatically really sad and tragic. And they actually started seeing each other, actually spending a lot of time together, because she thinks of Frank as this drunk who doesn't really give a shit, and then she's just trying to do whatever she can while she still lives. She wants to go out, with a bang. She just doesn't want to go through all this these different treatments with the chemo and such, because you can look at something like Breaking Bad even and seeing what that kind of how that kind of affects a person psychologically. So you do sort of respect Bianca's perspective on it. but Frank actually does develop legitimate feelings for her as the season goes along, which is really interesting to see for the character. Of course, Frank's still going to be a screw up pretty much, and William H. Macy's still such a great actor, but I'm still kind of hoping for to see more good in Frank as the series goes along. Maybe he'll sort of redeem himself more towards the series end at some point. I don't know. But it's still good to see like these little flickers of light in him, and the way he sort of looked at Bianca was sort of refreshing in that regard, I think. And that it ends in a really sad way though, with them going. I think it was to Costa Rica. They have a lot of fun, but she ends up pretty much drowning herself in the ocean. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but you kind of had a feeling that was coming by then. Once they bought the gun and such, and Frank barely stopped her from doing that. But before we get into the other characters, I already talked about Jimmy, didn't I? Wow. Lip also had some interesting stuff this season. Of course, with the professor, and he was also sort of semi having a relationship with Amanda. And Amanda, I think, is a fun character. I did like her better when she was more of like this serious, intelligent person, but she turned out to have some like psychological is about her. Lip even meets her parents, and at first is trying to make himself look like as much of a screw up as possible to help her to sort of stick it to her dad. But he sort of ends up bonding with her dad and getting along with them because they both have these same like minds really, as far as what they're interested in, how they sort of look at different things, which I found to be pretty interesting. And then Lip eventually has this thing with one of those professors who's supposed to be like really intelligent and mature, but then it turns into this thing where her husband actually accepts her being with other people. And we see at the end of the season that Lip actually is developing legitimate feelings for her. I'm curious to see where that goes. And Lip also struggled with the tuition this season, but that was actually paid off by someone who's actually interested in seeing him succeed. I do hope. I'm kind of worried about that though, because I feel like they're probably going to have Lip mess that up somehow. And he has this thing where he's like shocked by anything good coming his way, where he feels like he's actually earned something good in his life. It's interesting. I feel like they're probably going to explore more of the psyche of Lip in season 6, maybe. Lip is still probably one of, if not my favorite character on the show. For me, it's Fiona, Lip, Jimmy, and maybe like Ian or Kevin or something, I think. And Frank is kind of working his way back up there too right now. But yeah, Lip, as always, fun stuff. I am eager to see like Mandy come back. I do hope she does. I do hope she returns at some point. Emma Greenwald does a good job. I just sort of like miss their dynamic together. I feel like they really had something that was sort of sad the way that had to be taken away. I'm also curious to see if Karen and Jody return at some point. Even though I really don't like the idea of Lip and Karen together, I still sort of like somewhat of what they brought to the show. Although if they come back, that probably means Sheila's back. I don't really like Sheila too much, to be honest. But anyway, I'm sure they'll probably have those characters return at some point, though. And then Kev and Veronica actually got a lot of time this season, of course, with the babies. And this was both frustrating and fun at the same time because, yeah, they're raising kids now. Well, Kevin actually gets his head shaved, so that's different, but I'm kind of used to him with his head shaved now. But I miss the long flowing hair. With the babies, Kev, he turns out to actually be a really good, caring father. And, of course, Veronica somehow gets pissed at him for, paying too much attention to him and not enough to her. And, yeah, I get she has her needs and such, but I just feel like she's very hypocritical and very harsh and contradicting to herself, I should say, because of how much she wanted a kid, and now she's upset that Kevin's, looking after him so well. So I found that to be kind of frustrating, and Veronica was definitely one of those frustrating parts of this season, I think. And then when she actually walks out on Kevin, they sort of like temporarily split. She's upset when he sort of goes crazy and with Lip's dorm, and he becomes the rape walker. Basically, at first it turns into something where he's like escorting girls back to their dorm who are supposedly afraid of being molested or something, but then it turns out just to you just like can have sex and such. And what was frustrating about that is that Veronica walked out on Kevin and she's upset when he goes off and does something else. And really, Kevin made a lot of jokes about like everything like being a test and sort of like a question with Veronica. You know, it means something else. And Veronica gets so offended when Kevin makes statements like that. Then Veronica goes off and she tried to go on an actual date with another guy, so that's something different entirely, not just sex, but actually something that could build to a relationship. So really, Veronica didn't really want to take too much of the blame herself either. But they seem to sort of click a little bit more at the end of the season, which is good, because when they're actually like functional, they're like a really fun couple. But Kevin's definitely the better half of the two for sure. Kevin's definitely become one of my favorite characters. He's just one of the most likable guys on the show, and Steve Howey displays him so well too, just like the rest of the cast. I do want to talk about Ian, and Ian, he actually had one of the most serious stories this season. Of course, we find out he's actually bipolar, which is something I sort of touched on at the end of season 4. Of course, this is similar to what their mother, had. Of course, he ends up being like really depressed and sort of like flipping, and he sort of goes off the rails at times. It's just really kind of sad and serious to see. And this creates sort of a parallel when he does go and visit Monica after he gets out of this military prison or something like that. Because he sort of like lashed out when he was, with the military and getting trained and such. I did sort of like Monica and Ian's connection at first, because it seemed like Ian finally found someone who could understand him from a perspective of just almost like self-acceptance. And I did sort of like that area being explored. You like love him for who he is, don't try to like change him or like medicate him. It's really a debate whether that should be done. It just sort of like depends. I don't want to get too much into that right now, but it's really interesting. I did really feel for Ian. Cameron Monaghan just does such a great job, and you could definitely see his Jerome hair this season, of course, with him being on Gotham. But Cameron Monaghan just delivered such a great performance this season, and his dynamic with Mickey was really put to the test. I really like Mickey too. He's another one of my favorites. I love everyone almost except Deb, Carl, Veronica, and probably Sheila. And Sammy got on my nerves this season as well, but we'll talk about her when we get into the Carl side of things. But yeah, I really did feel for Ian, and I do like when he eventually comes back, but he does break up with Mickey. Unfortunately, I really do like the two of them together. I kind of hope they find their way back. But again, just great performances on that side of things. And Carl's stuff this season, I don't know. I don't know if it's the actor. I know it's supposed to be sort of like funny and cheesy in a way with him trying to go all gangster and stuff, but it's not really working for me. I like Carl when he's sort of bonding with Frank, and their dynamic together, but I don't know, I feel like it's just it doesn't really work too much with the Carl side of things. I think I sort of just prefer him when he was just a little kid who didn't say much. But I don't know, maybe when he's out, it'll be a little bit different. That stuff was okay. And then the Sammy side of things, of course, Frank's other daughter. I do like her son, her little son, Chucky or Chuckles or something, whatever you want to call him. Just he's a pretty chubby kid, and he has sort of this like resting squinty face. I don't know, it's kind of cute and aw at the same time. I don't want to make fun of the kid too much, but that's kind of what they're going for with the way he looks. I think I don't know. Anyway, Sammy, she ends up actually being a psychopath herself, and her and some of the other characters end up feuding. Sammy got pretty frustrating in the season just with trying to stick it to the Gallaghers and such. It was pretty annoying the way she went about that. I do like Mickey and Deb sort of putting her in the box at the end of the season though, and actually thinking she's dead. I wasn't sure if she was or not, but then you see her sort of banging on the inside of the storage thing I sent her in. She was like stuck in a box for a week apparently. And then she shows back up right at the end and tries to shoot at Mickey, so that was kind of a fun cliffhanger for the end of the season. So the Carl side of things was okay. The Sammy stuff was actually kind of fun, although again frustrating at the same time. Deb, probably my least favorite part of the season overall. I think the actress does a good job. I I just found it kind of annoying that they had Deb just sort of go into this like stereotypical teenage mode mistake type of mindset. You know, it was kind of cool when she started learning how to fight a little bit, and you know, she just really knocked some of those stuck up sluts on their asses. That part was good. But just with her wanting babies and saying how in love with this guy she is, although he seems like a nice guy, it's not a good idea to do that when she's 13. Just sort of her generic like teenage like tunnel vision was kind of annoying to see. You know, she came off like such a bright kid, and now she's just going down this path. It's, I don't know, she might be pregnant. We don't really know for sure at the end of the season, but probably. Then she gets mad at Fiona when Fiona tries to talk her out of doing certain things, and you know, Fiona sometimes doesn't have room to talk because, you know, she married a guy she barely knew and such, and yeah, like I said, I'm kind of getting tired of Fiona's mistakes all the time, but still, Deb, come on. Oh. But yeah, great fucking season overall, man. I absolutely love Shameless, and I can't wait to see what happens in season 6. My brother tells me there's some really good stuff with Carl by the end of the season, and just Shameless from episode to episode is such a great show, one of the absolutely most consistent shows I've ever seen on any network whatsoever. Really one of the greatest when it comes to writing, acting, just everything. So yeah, season 5 was really great overall. I'm sure there's stuff I forgot to talk about. So feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to talk about it more with you guys. And as I said, I'll try to finish season 6 before October 2nd. And I plan on reviewing every episode of season 7, or at least as many as I can. And yeah, so if you guys enjoyed the video, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, like, subscribe, and peace.